Welcome to the Top Order podcast, a very New Zealand-oriented panel for you in this episode of, well, what's going to be This Week in Cricket, but it will be a wrap-up of the second test between New Zealand and the West Indies at Hagley Oval as the Ashes is poised, maybe not on a knife edge, but it's certainly sort of knife adjacent with England at 220-ish for 7. With a lead of about 40 or 50 odd. Stokes still in, so anything can happen in that test match. But in this episode, we'll focus on the aftermath of the New Zealand-West Indies game. Injuries galore for New Zealand. What does that mean for them going forward? Some fight for the West Indies, the largest fourth innings score in timed test matches in history. So lots of positives for the men from the Caribbean. Look, should West Indies have gone for the win? Should New Zealand have won the game? Could they have won with their full bowling attack? What's next for both sides? Lots to talk about on this pod as soon as I push the screen button. To borrow a phrase, well, boys, probably not the outcome that you were anticipating given form going into this test match and what transpired early on in the game, but a huge fight back from the West Indies to secure, I won't say a thrilling draw, but certainly a very, very well-fought draw down in Christchurch.
Yeah, my question, Raj, and you asked me last night, and I'm not sure you really were able to answer it for yourself. I mean, how do we feel about this game?
Yes, I've had a moment to reflect on it. I actually, obviously, I'm disappointed that we didn't win.
Yeah,
but I'm not actually massively upset about it. I mean, there were chances that we had throughout the test, especially in the field, where I think that we should have capitalised. Definitely in the first innings with Chanderpaul. If we get him, in the single digits, where he dropped him twice, I think in single digits, that's a very different innings break score between the two innings. And then there was some poor fielding on day 4 as well. But at the end of the day, it was good cricket. West Indies were resilient. I really liked seeing that. We've talked a little bit about the West Indies, over the years on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I think, we'll go into their performance a little bit later, but I'm upset that we didn't win. I think we got into a great position, but, you can't fault a team for going out there and playing well. We had injury concerns as well, but the West Indies did the job, and I don't think you can be really, really upset about that. Am I being too nice? Coming with the Grinch perspective. It's December now.
I don't know. I was the same. I sort of feel like, I feel like New Zealand gave everything they had. I mean, we can criticise. I think if you're going to criticise New Zealand, West Indies were 76 for 4 at one point. I think they were 100-1 to win the test match from there. You'd think they're going to go. New Zealand's, like everyone in the world thinks New Zealand's going to go on and win that test match. But they were down Henry. They were down Nathan Smith, which means that Zach Folkes and Jacob Duffy were the bowlers alongside.
Hang on, you picked 5 bowlers.
The seam bowlers.
Yeah, so you've still got 5 bowlers.
So we had Michael Bracewell, who I think everyone in the New Zealand setup would not have assumed Michael Bracewell was going to bowl 50 overs in an innings. But again, that's the consequence. I don't know. Convince me that
I think that's unfair, Baldy, because our tactics have been for years now that pace bowling is what we use in New Zealand.
100%, but you can't just go, well, we only had 2 bowlers. I agree that there are massively mitigating circumstances, but you can't just go, well, we only had 2 bowlers, because you picked 5 and you had Ravindra, and you could have picked Mitchell, and then you would have had 6.
No, he was injured.
Mitchell was injured. Mitchell failed a fitness test.
But fielded most of the game.
Stood at first slips. But yes, I guess they didn't want to risk Mitchell, and they could have. And Santner was the one we thought was going to be selected, and he also failed a late fitness test as well.
And
Phillips was coming back from injury. Jameson's playing Plunkett Shield. You could argue that maybe he should have been in the squad, but again, they don't want to take chances with him. But I don't know what they're going to do now. We might get to that in the middle, but I think we have to just be give the credit to the West Indies is probably where I would say 76 for 4. There was every opportunity for them to just say, throw in the towel, start throwing the bat at it, say we're done. But they didn't. They dug in, and Shai Hope, Justin Greaves, and Kemar Roach, fantastic.
Yeah, I kind of was talking about at the start there. I've seen a little bit of a change in the West Indies. When they went to India, obviously they lost that series 2-0, but in that second game, they actually showed a little bit of heart, a little bit of pride in the jersey. Here in the sort of white ball stuff, they got themselves into bad positions, but never sort of gave up. They were there hanging around all the way to the end. And they did the same here. So, I am all for the West Indies and how they've played on this tour in New Zealand. I've been very, very impressed with their fight.
It's been what we've hoped for, been asking for, kind of, longed for from this West Indies side for a long, long period of time now. Their ability to match the level of talent with an attitude and a commitment to the team that translates into performances like this. Like, they're not going into every test match, not giving 100%. I'm not saying that, but it's so refreshing to see them go out and fight and claw and scrap rather than just rely on being more talented than their opposition to win games of cricket. So, look, there's so much to like from this West Indies performance going forward. I think we're all Greaves fans on this podcast. It was terrific to see him get a double ton. He seems to be a rocks and diamonds kind of player, and we saw the kind of upper echelon of what I think he's capable of in Test cricket from a batting perspective in this Test match. So there's so much to like from a West Indies perspective. Also nice to see Kemar Roach get runs, and get runs in a sense that, like, normally when you see him out in the middle, and if you looked at a scorecard and just saw, like, a chunky score against Kemar Roach, you'd be, he's probably been in for 30 or 40 balls and thrown the willow at it, but and had a dip. But his gutsiness and his, like, determination and discipline in defense, like, he faced 50, 55 balls. He, like, didn't score for an hour in the defense of that Test match. It just goes to show that, cricketers the world over, when they apply themselves in those kinds of situations, you can achieve these kinds of outcomes. So, look, I thought it was a tremendous piece of cricket from the West Indies to bat out that draw, notwithstanding the fact that, yes, New Zealand were two premier pace bowlers, or a premier pace bowler and a decent bowler down for the majority of that second innings. And, it took a lion-hearted effort from Duffy and 50 overs from Bracewell to actually just get them through the day, because, they didn't have a lot of options outside the four guys that rolled their arm over.
Can someone tell me why Shai Hope has a Test average of 27? I watch him play and I don't understand. I mean, maybe it's the short ball stuff. I mean, New Zealand obviously really targeted that. They got him out that way in both innings, but, it cost them almost 200 runs across the Test match. I don't know. Maybe if anyone has any ideas in the comments, we only see him. We don't see him as often as other people around the world necessarily. So, yeah.
I can give you the answer.
Okay.
What's his average with glasses on? That's what I want to know.
You think that's the answer?
That's the answer. Wearing glasses,
clearly
the aura of it.
The projecting yourself into the crease, I think, with the Universe Boss style glasses. Yes. I mean, I can't remember who we were talking to, but they were talking about two players that they'd played against who projected power when they got to the crease. One was Steve Waugh, and the other one was Ross Taylor. And you could just see as soon as they got to the crease, they owned that area of the field and they just projected their aura across it and made you feel like that was their space. And I think Shai Hope in glasses certainly owns that space, as well as any West Indian who's worn glasses batting in a Test match.
In all seriousness, I don't know why his one-day numbers are all right.
One-day numbers is 50, averages 50, averages almost 30 in T20 cricket.
Yeah, I mean, what I really liked about this innings from him was the way he changed gears and really targeted bowlers like the spinners. He went after them. Didn't matter what time of the day it was, whether it was coming up to a break or whatever. He went after them and he changed gears very, very well. I actually think he batted really well in both innings. That partnership that they put together, him and Chanderpaul in the first innings, actually, if you extrapolate that forward, has allowed them to get to this position as well.
I think that gave them belief that they could take down the New Zealand attack. I mean, were they missing Smith at that point, that early in the Test match? I mean, I know Henry got injured in the second innings.
First innings.
Yeah, so they were still at a reasonably full strength at that point, at least from the bowling perspective. That partnership, I think, set up a little bit of belief for them to be able to go and do the business in the second innings.
Can I just quickly say, while we're talking sort of about West Indies batting and stuff, we often talk about pitches all around the world. What do we make of this one? Because I think in New Zealand, we often see situations where this one it was a very recent New Zealand type vintage pitch, I think, in terms of the first couple of days were really tough to bat on. If you bowled in the right areas as a seamer, there were a lot of batters that were got out. I don't think, well, obviously some made mistakes, but a lot of them, brilliant balls, hitting edges, hitting the top of the stumps. Then we get to the third, fourth, fifth day, it flattens out. And, by the end of that fifth day, I know it was, the injury-ravaged bowlers bowling. It was Jacob Duffy and Zach Folkes bowling. I mean, Folkes was down to about 120 clicks by the end. Duffy had bowled 60 overs across the test, so they weren't at their most threatening, but it was very docile by the end. I don't know. Any comments about is that good? We often comment about stuff, so I think it's only fair.
I don't think it's fair on the curators to blame them for that surface if the mitigating factor is that one of the attacks were missing 40% of their productivity and probably 60% of their penetrative power if you take Henry out of the equation. And he's been the outstanding bowler of this series from a New Zealand perspective. As good as Duffy has been, as good as the other guys have been, he's quite clearly New Zealand's premier bowler, right? So you take him out of the equation and New Zealand's ability to do stuff with the ball outside of Folkes in the first 7 to 8 overs when the ball's doing a bit through the air, it does make it look like it's just straight up and down. And certainly there was no noticeable wear in the surface, like we're starting to see one go up and down a little bit at the Gabba now at the end of day or the middle of day 4. There was none of that really in this test match. Players could trust the bounce. And look, bro, fair enough. I think it's difficult, Raj, would you agree that like curating a wicket that is good for bowling on day 1 and bit of day 2, good for batting day 3, 4, and then starts to deteriorate in day 5. That's a very difficult thing to achieve in New Zealand, right? Because you either have to have it too green so that it doesn't, it browns off a little bit, but then you can't get enough heat, literally can't get enough heat into the wicket in this part of the world to have it dry up, crack up, deteriorate, and then start taking turn towards the end of the test match.
I don't have too strong an opinion on it. I think the first day, 2 days, as you mentioned, was actually too hard to bat on it. I felt like it was very similar to the one day we played against England at Hagley as well, where Folkes ran through them. If Folkes could roll that pitch up and take it with him everywhere around the world, that is his ideal pitch.
First couple of days.
I think that the West Indies actually let us off the hook. They bowled that sort of second, third, fourth hour on that day 1. I thought they bowled far too short and let us a couple of partnerships form. But I think that, there's all, shoulda, woulda, coulda. If New Zealand had won the toss and bowled first, West Indies could have been out for 60. Could have been all out for 60. It was that kind of wicket where, you just can't settle in. One's got your name on it at some stage if you bowl good areas.
Where were you going to take us, Baldy?
Praise for the New Zealand side next, because there's been some tremendous performances across this test match. We've mentioned, I think Duffy and Folkes have to come in for some early praise here just because of the workload that they had to assume in the back end of this test. It's not fun bowling on a flat wicket to begin with. I mean, none of us have had to do it for any more than 3 or 4 overs at a time anyway, but certainly not...
I'll speak for yourself. I bowled some long spells in my time.
Not pace, though.
No, not pace.
We're not running in hard and bowling pace. I mean, I haven't bowled pace since I was 11, so, we're not there ready to give our perspective from a place of understanding. But we do have to give credit to Duffy and Folkes to do something that they're probably not suited to doing, but probably haven't ever done really before in the context of a big game like that, right?
Duffy was, he's the one I think in particular I'd love to single out because, he bowled, as I said before, he bowled 60 overs across that test, got
43 in the second innings.
Got 8 wickets, and I would say was running in as, I think physically maybe not as hard, but mentally I think he was still giving it absolutely everything he had in those final overs of the day. And I was just so impressed with him. Obviously wasn't able to pick up those final wickets, but I think, lion-hearted effort from him in particular.
Yeah, I love Jacob Duffy. I think that his 5 for in the first innings was good. I thought Matt Henry bowled better. I thought he was unplayable at times, or like bowling too good to nick almost, Matt Henry. But Jacob Duffy did a great job, came back and played that enforcer role, took the wickets at the end of the innings, which he needed to, and he had a massive motor in the second innings. I don't know what we would have done without him and him especially. But if we sort of look forward now to what does our bowling lineup look like going forward. I've got a few options here. Tickner was obviously selected in the squad. Jameson, you mentioned, has just come back into the Red Bull domestic stuff. I've got Neil Wagner down here because he is travelling as a commentator.
He's ground adjacent. He's ready to go.
You mentioned Wags. That test match and that pitch made me actually appreciate Wagner's efforts actually a lot more. I mean, I've appreciated them a lot in watching him, but I think you see what New Zealand fast bowlers and fast bowlers all around the world that come here are working with sometimes on days 4 and 5, and we were actually able to win a few tests in that way with Wagner picking up those wickets when Southee and Bolt and Jameson and Henry were unable to kind of get the swing, get the support from the wicket. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we could talk a long time about
those brutish deliveries.
Which those guys were trying to, Jacob Duffy was trying to do at one point, but and maybe would have been able to be more successful with those other bowlers where he could come in and bowl shorter spells and things. But yeah.
So can I put you on the spot then? What does our bowling lineup look like for the second? And what are our options?
I mean, they brought in Michael Ray. So Michael Ray's been brought into the squad. So if you're looking at that, if you're thinking that Duffy and Folkes, because, I mean, there were whispers that Folkes was sort of carrying a bit of a niggle.
But you just cannot take for granted the effects that will have, having bowled 163 overs in the fourth innings of a test is going to have for the next one.
And it's such a short turnaround as well. It's starting again on Wednesday. So, I think they were straight on the plane up to Wellington for that next test. I mean, that leaves them, if they are not going, I would be so tempted to bring Kyle Jameson into the squad if I was them.
Have to.
There's been no mention of it yet. We're recording on a Sunday night here in New Zealand. Yeah, they haven't said yet he's going to be in. He played Plunket Shield for Canterbury. I think he bowled 10 overs, at least in the first innings. He bowled 10 overs. I haven't seen the scorecard for the second innings. But I don't know. I mean, otherwise, we're going to be those two backing up, so Duffy and Folkes. Then we've got Tickner and Ray if you want to play 4 seamers. If you don't, then your options are playing 3 seamers and essentially probably Mitchell Santner and Glenn Phillips if they're both fit. But are they both fit? I don't know how well. I mean, Phillips, I would think, is now fit. He played a couple of first-class rounds. He was on the field as well, like Daryl Mitchell. Whereas, so maybe Santner's not. Is it, I think both of those are more likely to take wickets for us than Michael Bracewell. I mean, Bracewell, where I was going with the Bracewell conversation before is that I think we always knew he was a part-ish time. He's better than a part-time spinner. I mean, he has played as our number one spinner in Test before. It's not the first time that he's done that. But I don't think he's someone that we ever expect to bowl a long spell and be a wicket taker in that way.
Yeah.
Whereas
he's your fifth bowler. He's your all-rounder. Bowls a little bit, bats a little bit.
Yeah. And what Santner is more equipped to do, and again probably better equipped if we only go in with one than Phillips is he can actually build pressure. Michael Bracewell, unfortunately, was most of that time they were able to get away. They were able to get singles. They were able to hit a boundary every over or 2 when they wanted to. So it's just hard. It's just hard as a spinner if you can't build any pressure and can't, work away at a batter. So, yeah, I'd be tempted if Santner is fit. I'd almost be tempted to play 2 spinners in the sense of Phillips at 6 or 7, wherever you want to go.
What do we usually do
Santner
at the Basin?
Well, we usually in New Zealand only play 1 spinner. It's not or no spinners, or we kind of
5 seamers
play Glenn Phillips. But Glenn Phillips took a 5 for it at the Basin a couple of years ago. Nathan Lyon had a bit of success there.
I think it's worthy playing a spinner.
The Basin seems to be a bit more, spin. Traditionally, from some of the New Zealand pitches over the past few years, it's been a place where spin's been able to be successful. Because otherwise, if they're not bringing Jameson to that squad, you're going in with those 4 seamers. It also makes your tail look a bit long. Whether they're even considering that. But, at the start of this series, right, I think I asked you guys what your opinions on, what does this bowling attack look like when it was Henry, Duffy, Folkes and Nathan Smith? If we're now talking about a bowling lineup that's basically led by Jacob Duffy, we've got Folkes, Tickner and Michael Ray, who would be making his Test debut. I would
this
say
points to the West Indies in terms of the strength of the fast bowling cartels, right?
Yeah.
I think they would bring in a stronger fast bowling cartel, with
Roach and Seals.
With Roach and Seals.
It's tough. I mean, they've got some decisions to make because there's all those guys in the mix. There's obviously Daryl Mitchell, who will hopefully be back, but then what does that mean? We've got Tom Blundell's out. Mitch Hay has come into the squad. Tom Latham kept really well, I thought. Could he just bat 6 and keep? But I don't know that. I don't think he will. That's not something. It's something that I would certainly consider. But
I think it's worthy of consideration because you've got Will Young at 5, who could have opened the batting. And, if you believe in Conway this week, then you should believe in him next week. So is actually New Zealand better served by dropping Tom Latham, who did score 140 odd opening the batting last week? You could drop him to 6 and have him keep wickets, which is what he kind of does in the one day, as he drop bats in the middle order and keeps wickets there. I think you're weakening a strength to strengthen a weakness at that point. But
he's there to be a batsman. You leave him.
But do you pick your best 6? Do you pick your best 6 bats?
You pick him to open the batting like you have for the last 8 seasons.
Fair enough.
that we have. You pick him to open the batting. I think he did a great job, as you said, shouldering both responsibilities and the captaincy. He didn't have to. We batted first. We had to face 10 overs at the end of the second day, and then he batted all day. Imagine if he had to come out after keeping 160 overs, how that would have gone. But we had Will Young in the side, so maybe there would have been something that would have switched there. But he's there to he's there to open the batting, and I think that's what he should be focusing on. I think that Jameson, if he's fit,
it's an SOS.
Should be picked.
Yeah. Who do you pick him instead of Michael Ray, who you brought into the squad, but then you wouldn't play in the 11? You'd pick somebody else to come and leapfrog him. That's a bit of weird optics, though.
He was added during the test.
He's added during the test match. Yeah. I mean, and Jameson's been around the squad. I mean, you could say, I don't know, the optics for and the conversations with Michael Ray. I think there's the key part of that discussion. Is he there because we don't know how Folks and Duffy are going to back up? Do we need kind of as many people as possible?
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that Duffy by Wednesday will still be,
and if
still be in recovery.
If Folks was a little bit sore, then can he back up after so many overs? I don't know. I think there are a lot of conversations, but I'm sort of with you because I think that we have to win these 2 tests. Like these were tests that we said it last week. New Zealand has to, for their World Test Championship hopes, they have to win these 3 tests at home. If you're writing your scorecards, you're going through and doing your World Test Championship predictor, you were going New Zealand, and in the hopes that West Indies had lost their last 5 tests. New Zealand, up until the last couple of seasons against England and Australia, been very good at home. You would think we win these tests, but it's a tough ask now.
So are New Zealand still favourites then? Or have the West Indies brought themselves so far back into contention that because they're the form team at the moment. They've just scored 452 runs unanswered for 6. And
yes.
Yep. They are the form team? They're favourites?
Yes, they are favourites. New Zealand are favourites.
New Zealand favourites.
Okay. Even if we are bringing in a very, very inexperienced bowling lineup, they are experienced in New Zealand conditions. Bowling at the Basin Reserve's hard for any bowler, let alone bowler who hasn't done it before from perhaps a foreign nation. I still back, even with an inexperienced bowling lineup, I still back us to take 20 wickets.
Yeah, and I mean, we had our chances. I mean, you could say that, yes, I mean, we've talked all around all of this, that by the end, those guys were spent. Michael Bracewell was not able to build that pressure, but he still created chances. There was a couple of catches that should have been taken. Well, in particular, I think the second one that went up and Tickner and Phillips got themselves into a bit of a mix-up. That one should have been taken. The Folks one was tough. Probably, I mean, you probably want to take that 50% of the time, maybe a bit more than that. Wolfie, get your finger up from Tom Latham if a couple of those decisions had gone their way. But again, you run that risk when you don't when you use your reviews and you burn through 3. So I don't know.
I think one of the reviews for MLARC was a poor review. I think you could forgive New Zealand in ordinary circumstances for using the other two. What was your view, Raj, on the way New Zealand handled some of those not out decisions from Wharf, who up until the point where they reviewed the caught behind down the leg side?
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
So up until that point, he was 9-0 in terms of being asked for a review and then having that review struck down rather than the review being upheld. He was 9-0 at that point. Then there was the situation where tickle down the leg side, not out decision from Wharf,
which was correct.
The catch was claimed, but New Zealand was so adamant that he was out that they just kind of stood there and waited for Wharf and Rifle to consult and then go, okay, do you think he caught it? Yeah, the catch looked clean. Do we think that there might have been a scratch on it? Okay, we'll go upstairs. What was your take on that situation from New Zealand perspective?
I don't want to talk about DRS or anything like that. I know that it did get sent up. I want to see. This is probably not where you wanted this conversation to go. I want to see the umpire there making a call, and then if we have a review, we can review it. If they have a review, they can review it. If we've used them, we just get on with the game.
I agree with you. I 100% agree. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah. I will be offside with all New Zealanders for the next week and a half for saying this, but I really didn't like the attitude that New Zealand took when the umpiring didn't go their way. Get on with the game. If that was an Australian team that stood there and did that, there would be news articles in the paper all across the world saying how boorish Australia's behaviour was. New Zealand doesn't play their cricket like that. And I think that probably the only thing that I think they would take away from this game is, well, actually, the heat got to us a little bit there. Frustration. And that's understandable on any cricket field. But I think that's not on brand for New Zealand. And I'd like to see them, make that adjustment going forward. And, they probably won't have burnt their 3 reviews next test match. So it's probably never going to happen again. It was just an interesting tidbit in an otherwise kind of, meandering day of test cricket.
Yeah, I wonder if Latham's going to get just a bit of a chat about that. Put your finger up, Wolfie.
It wasn't, as things go, it wasn't.
Oh, yeah, it's not that bad, is it?
No.
But you're not normally able to kind of question the umpire. I suppose he's the captain. He is kind of.
Well, he was lucky he put the words in that sentence around that way, not a different way. Can we move on? I don't really want to talk about it. Let's talk about the batting.
Yep.
Latham, Ravindra. I'm very disappointed with a few of my friends looking at you guys down
straight
there.
down the barrel. You can address them directly. Camera one.
With some of the group chat around sort of Ravindra and Latham and how they batted and how it was not a great 100 and all of this sort of cutting them down. What did you make of their batting and how it went?
I love watching Rachin Ravindra bat just in general. I've actually had quite a bit of that in some of the chats that I'm in as well. A lot of frustration around Ravindra. I think, was it him? Someone else we certainly have talked about recently where you have those high standards of someone, you really hold them to. When you think they can be great, it's like the Joe Root conversation that has been going on for years about Australia 100, and glad he's now put that out of the conversation, and we can finally call him a great. But for Ravindra, I think that's our expectation, right? That he can become a New Zealand great. So when he is flashing outside off stump and nicking off, or playing what you would call a loose shot and getting out, people across, and it could have happened in this game, right? Could have happened in that second innings. He was dropped twice, I think, before he was on, or maybe before he was a 10, 15, and then goes on and scores a fantastic 100. Yes, okay, the pitch looked relatively easy to bat at that point. The West Indies had 2 inexperienced seamers themselves running into bowl. But yeah, just some of the shots he plays, right off that front foot pull, he crashes it through the covers. There's just some of the cricket shots that he does. You kind of go, okay, like this is something special, and we've known that for a long time. So yeah, it's brilliant to watch. And Latham, I think we said last week, right? He needs to step up in this series. He needs to get 100. Hadn't had 100 since 2022. If you want to be harsh on Latham, you can run the numbers and you can go, well, he scored 100 against the supposed top 4 sides in world cricket: Australia, England, South Africa, India, and he's picked up 1300s against the other sides in Test cricket. So this was the kind of people, again, probably the similar conversations. This is the kind of series that Tom Latham dominates in, looks good. but it was an incredibly important innings. We were in when those two were there. We needed a big partnership because yes, we had Will Young, who's been struggling all summer, and then we didn't have Blundell. We were down into Bracewell and then the bowlers after that. So those two needed to step up, and they did, and it was great.
I mean, you can only make runs when you're batting, I think was one of the key phrases from our early days of the Top Order podcast. But those two guys in particular took their opportunity when it was presented to them. And for all of the asterisks, mitigating factors around Greaves' 100 and Roach's 50 and Shai Hope's 140, you have to take advantage of those opportunities, and you have to be disciplined, and you have to execute to perfection to make a really, really big score in Test cricket. Or if you're like Marnus, you get dropped 11 times. But if you're going to do it in a flawless kind of fashion...
He's looked good, I thought.
Oh, look, he gets dropped a lot, I've been told. I keep getting told he gets dropped a lot. They took the best of their opportunities. And I think what we've been hoping for Ravindra in particular, but also for Latham, is when they get an opportunity, they go on and make a big score. And both of them did that. So plaudits have to go to those two guys. Where do we want to go next? Is there anything else? I mean, you've got 17 different lineups on your piece of paper there, Stu.
I ran through them before. Yeah, I guess the only other question I have is how do we feel about the West Indies kind of getting themselves into a position where they could have had a crack and then not going for it? Open the floor.
They were only ever one wicket away from being in serious trouble in that Test match, and with 2-3 hours to go during the day, when the win was still on the cards, they still had a ton of work to do at that point. I think that it would be extremely remiss if they got themselves into that position and then threw a series of rash shots threw the game away when they had fought so hard. I'm actually prouder of the West Indies for fighting all the way to the end and making sure that they drew the game. I know that a lot of West Indies teams would have had a dip, in the past, the 80s and 90s West Indies teams. Oh, we've got a sniff here. We're going to really, really go for it. But given they had to work so hard, that draw is the equivalent of a 3/4 of a win for them. And I think that's the thing that they were looking at it. Like, we have 3/4 of won this Test match by batting all the way through to stumps. We're not going to give that away. We're going to make sure that we achieve that's the goal that we want to achieve. How did you feel about it, Raj?
I think that a draw from that position in an away Test series is a great result for the West Indies, and they have a massive amount of momentum going into the second Test. Just the psychological edge that they made New Zealand bowl for 163 overs, and they still couldn't bowl them out. I feel like they could have gone for another day.
Oh, easy. Those two, yeah.
But I also think, going for the win, if that's the question, I think if at any stage they had tried to go for the win, they would have lost that game.
Yeah, I agree.
So some maturity, I like it, and it's a great result. A win away from a position where they were far behind the 8 ball sets them up perfectly for the rest of the series.
Mm-hmm. I think I don't have much to add on that, but I will say I think your point about the mental side of that is really key, because you make New Zealand work that hard, and then they go on and get those last 4 wickets in the final hour because West Indies are going on. New Zealand gets to get that adrenaline boost of, yes, we won that Test. Yes, it was hard work, but we won. And now we're 1 up in the series. But now they don't have that. Now they have this memory of bowling to Greaves all day and, bowling to Kemar Roach for 3 hours, 4 hours and just unmoved, and having to run and again and just get nothing out of that pitch, nothing out of those batters. So, I think that's huge.
And it gave the West Indies bowlers, well, other than Roach, plenty of rest. So it was great. It was great. And just goes to show, as Shane Warne famously said, nothing more overrated than the third new ball.
Well, yeah, if you're getting to the third new ball, there's a bit of trouble, isn't there?
Something's gone horribly, horribly wrong. Before we wrap up this pod, I know it's going to be a short one today. Do we want to give Virat Kohli a little bit of plaudits? Has been criticised on this podcast, but is absolutely dominating the white ball series against South Africa.
I mean, you just said it. It's just funny, isn't it? That someone like that clearly is still an amazing batter. You watch him bat in these one days, and you kind of go, we were looking it up before. His last 3 IPLs have been incredible, all sort of 50, 60 average. His last couple of years, 2024, he only played 3 ODIs, but this year he's averaging 60 in ODIs. 2023, he averaged 70. It's still very weird to me how his test career kind of wrapped up because that he just wasn't able to, I don't know, keep going, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, he's still a class player. It's fun. I don't know. They seem to, with Rohit and Kohli back in that squad, I don't know. They seemed a lot happier, if you ask me. I guess the winning helps. The scoring a lot of runs helps. But I don't know. I still think there's something sort of not quite right in that Indian environment. I don't know if it's players or, coach, whatever is going on. But they certainly looked a lot happier in these 3 ODIs. And, very good fun. Very good fun for across the board, I think, over these 3 games. If you enjoy watching batting, not so much if you enjoy tight bowling.
The dressing room issues, that's sort of $250 an hour kind of psychological analysis I think that we'd need to do for that one. But I think, you know my feelings on Virat Kohli, man can bat. I think that he's in the conversation, if not is perhaps the greatest one-day batsman of all time, white ball batsman. Definitely up there. But would it be kinder? This is a question for the panel. Would it be kinder just to set up a bowling machine and just feed the bowling machine for the batsmen and count those runs?
Place everyone on the boundary and just home run derby.
In this game. It's incredible how many runs are in the series so far already.
I would love to know if India are happy because they're making runs or India are making runs because they're happy. Because it seems like there's a definite shift there. And maybe it's just actually we're going back to playing a format that we're more confident
and dominating
in. We have a little bit more of a license in one-day cricket than we do in test matches. I think the weight of expectation is slightly different in a bilateral one-day series versus a bilateral test match. But they certainly seem to be more positive.
The pitches are much different, aren't they? Pitches are flat.
Yeah, and, the circumstances are set up for them to be, more freewheeling and more risk-taking with the bat.
They're still crawling, right, as a team from, how they are forming themselves as a team. They're still in their infancy. When you go back to the white ball format and you've got these guys who come back in, these superstars, you can just jump on the back of them and follow them home. If they don't play well, they make people around them play well, right?
I feel like there's a bit of a comfort blanket type scenario with Rohit and Virat there in the white ball format, at least, where they just go, oh, Rohit's here, oh, Virat's here, everything's going to be okay now. Whereas I think they don't have that fallback position as much in Test cricket, and I think when things aren't going right, they still haven't quite figured out who their rock is. Anything else before we wrap up this pod?
Have you seen the status of the cricket?
No. What's happening?
England are all out.
Sorry, Binksy.
Australia needs 65 to win.
Right.
Sorry, Binksy.
We could probably finish the pod before you get on the phone and start texting your friends.
I was going to text Binksy and just apologise for my little outburst there. No, what I wanted to check was how much time is left in the day.
Oh yeah, still plenty
of
time.
Goes till 12:30, right?
Yeah,
so there's still 3 hours.
I think fine.
Well, I was going to look at the number of overs remaining, but the number of overs remaining and the number of overs to be bowled in the day, that actually will get bowled two very, very different figures.
Nervous?
No. I'm saying that the over rates are shit, Stu, is my point.
Okay.
So there could be 45 overs remaining in the day, but what that really means is there's somewhere between 25 and 30.
Yeah.
Well, they've got an hour in session 3 or session 2, and then 2 hours under lights.
Okay, to make 60 runs. So there will be a result today.
Yeah, one way or another.
Maybe
we'll be seeing like the lowest score in Test history.
Maybe we will. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I may have a tantrum.
Archer's started with 4 byes.
Genuine?
Yes.
Oh, that's 61.
Wide down the leg side.
Excellent. Well, that's
lovely podcasting to finish this.
Can you wrap this up?
I will wrap this up. Well, you opened the door to this live update. That concludes this episode of This Week in Cricket, wrapping up the West Indies New Zealand Test match from Christchurch. Look, injuries galore. There'll be a Dad's Army look to the or a MASH look to the team in between now and Wednesday. But next test is Basin Reserve in Wellington. England versus Australia still going on. South Africa, India duking it out over in India as well. So lots of cricket going on. We'll be covering lots of it here on the Top Order podcast. Stay tuned. We'll be back probably Monday or Tuesday with a wrap-up of this second test. Anything could happen from here, Raj, as you say. I'm hoping it doesn't. But regardless, we'll be there to wrap it up on Tuesday. So until then, play the game the right way, and we'll talk to you again soon on the Top Order podcast.